giving against the grain. That's actually part of the conversation we're about to have. You people, you will probably fall in love with one of them who's here in studio, warriors going against the grain to keep on smiling, keep on living, and keep on fighting in spite of the circumstances that they are facing in this life. It is all about health and wellness and safety of a nation right here at Capital throughout the month of October and November. And we kick-started with a very, very important conversation. It's Philarius and Chico with you. It's Capital in the Morning.
Well, and to set the stage for our discussion and conversation this morning, I want to share a few facts and highlight the severe cancer burden, not just here in Kenya, but globally now. Globally, we are looking at cancer is one of the leading causes of death worldwide. Now, in 2022, 20 million new cases and 9.7 million cancer-related deaths. In addition to that, the number of new cases is projected to rise to 35 million by 2050. Now, the situation here in Kenya is particularly alarming. Cancer is the second leading cause of death from non-communicable diseases. Currently, the country records over 47,000 new cancer cases and more than 32,000 cancer-related deaths each year. Now, crucially, the country's deadliest cancer is not breast or cervical, but esophageal cancer, which accounted for about 14.8% of all cancer deaths in 2023. Now, this remains deadly due to late-stage detection and aggressive progression, with an estimated 4,000 deaths from around 4,300 new cases annually. Now, the big question here becomes, given the rapidly rising incidents, the high mortality rates, especially from what I've stated here, esophageal cancer and stuff, and the significant number of people currently living with the disease, should Kenya then declare cancer a national emergency? That's the big question that would actually be directing to Prof and Daktari this morning.
Absolutely. Joined by Professor Nicholas Abinya, who's an expert, Nairobi Hospital, cancer expert to be specific. And alongside him is a lady who I think is a beacon of hope and one who should be considered an inspiration. She's a cancer warrior, Grace Mukoma. Those two are our guests right here on Capital in the Morning. Prof. Philarius reading out some stark numbers, staggering. But you know, one thing I've learned in this life is that numbers speak, but when you hit the ground, when you are in it, that's when you see something totally different, and the numbers then come alive and make sense. So if you could just paint a picture, is this a case where we're underrating cancer, not taking it seriously as a nation, and should that be the case, and to what extent?
Well, cancer is common, and as said, is a big cause of death globally and in our country also. And of course, we should not underrate it, and I don't think it's being underrated. Okay. I think in the cancer space, from about the year 2012, Kenya has made strides in the area of cancer control. That is early detection and treatment in terms of training, availing facilities, centers where cancer is treated. There was the setting of the National Cancer Control Program, the National Cancer Institute, and we have also in the private sector, we have a lot of facilities treating cancer. So cancer, yes, is taken seriously and is treated in this country.
What are the most common types?
The commonest is breast. Breast cancer is number one cancer. Combining men and women, and then if you take men alone, prostate. Number two in women is cervical cancer. Then cancer of the esophagus, stomach, liver come in very close. The difference, of course, is that there are sites which are more difficult to treat and cause death early, and hence the numbers of deaths that are highlighted in the esophagus, because the esophagus, you know, this is an area where if it is hit, your food cannot go down.
Yeah.
And if nothing is done quickly, it's going to take you down very fast. Yeah.
You know, even as we look at the most common types where we've stated cervical, breast, prostate, esophageal, stomach, liver, biggest question then underlying this would be, what are the risk factors we are looking at? If someone is listening to us and they would want to get a little bit more information on what the biggest risk factors are.
Well, lots of cancers have no known risk factors. That's what makes it a problem. Okay. If you take cancer of the esophagus, there's a lot of studies trying to find out if it is a virus that is causing it, the majority, or if it is alcohol, if it is hot foods and the rest. So a lot of research is being done in this area. But nobody has actually pinned down for the majority of, let's say, cancer of the esophagus cases. Now, the liver cancer, of course, we know that most of it is a virus, hepatitis B, C virus, alcohol, and other factors which are not so common. If you look at stomach cancer, again, there are areas like factors like Helicobacter pylori, that is a bacterial infection, alcohol also, tobacco smoking, and the rest are causing them. If you come to breast, we know risk factors, diet, we know age as risk factors, and family history. But family history accounts only for about 10%. The rest is really not. And if you look at the family history, the familial factors, if you take the total number of cancer cases, they count for just about 40%. The rest have other diverse risk factors that are not very clearly defined.
So this basically what you're saying, this is the thing about social media, is that it's an old wives' tale where people say it's what we eat, it's the processed food, it's a certain lifestyle. Are they actually part of it, but not the core part, or is just this assumptions we're making?
This generalizing, cancer is not one disease. Cancer is more than 100 different types of disease, and each of them has to be looked at differently. And so if you look at diet, dietary factors may be relevant in a certain group of cancers, high fat and all those, like breast cancer, yes, like cancer of the alimentary canal, colon cancer in particular. But those are factors that some of them are not very well established, because if you look at the studies that have established some of these so-called causes, particularly, let's say, red meat and colon cancer, you find that the studies are conflicting. So you cannot pin it down and say, but of course, we know that if you take things like processed foods, then the risk gets higher, but only in specific cancers. It's not for all of them. It's not for, let's say, bone cancer or something like that. So you can't generalize.
Grace is a cancer warrior currently, and we hear these stories from people about how we live. Our lifestyle could be an issue. You know, what you eat, where you go, what you drink, yada, yada, yada. You see a lot of that information online. How about you and your journey? When you look back, you know, do you see this as nonsense when people are talking like this? Because it's good to hear from someone who's having a personal experience.
Me, I'm Grace. I think food is not, because I have been in a good diet for a while. I come from a village where we lived with my grandmother. I used to eat that food, yams,
Natural food.
cassava, yeah. So I don't think
It's not a
about
case
food.
of lifestyle.
For me, it is not about food.
What was your journey like? I mean, when you were first diagnosed, what happened? What led you to going there?
I was diagnosed with breast cancer October 2023. And it was a long journey because I had a lump in my left breast where I just ignored because I thought it's just a swelling, that it will come and then disappear. But for a while, it started having some pain. That is where I went to the hospital. Yeah.
After how long did you start having this pain?
It took about 2 months.
Doc, we hear these stories. I'm assuming you hear these stories all the time where you see some of those symptoms and someone assumes, hii inakuja itaisha, hakuna stress. And then, boom, like Grace, you find yourself in a situation, and some actually take way too long, and it's a bit too late to do this. So adequate is that conversation of get screened today, constantly. How many cases like Grace do you get to come across?
Well, there are many cases. You know, the problem here is that if you take a swelling in the breast, cancer is not necessarily the number one cause. There are other causes like abscesses, those infections. So people assume that it is an infection that will go. And when people are either pregnant or lactating, you assume it is this male collecting in not being expressed very well. So you assume that it will go away. And there are benign breast diseases. And the benign breast diseases are more common even than cancer. So they confuse you. So you may actually go to, you either say, okay, it will go away, it doesn't go away. You go to a place, see a health worker, the health worker examines you, and at times they also assume it is not cancer, it's a benign breast disease, unless one has a very high index of suspicion. And the high index of suspicion comes in when you are treating these cases, you see them very often. But if you are not seeing them often, if you are in a situation where you're treating other causes like infections and the rest, you are going to assume it's infection. You give them antibiotics and doesn't go away and that. So, but if you have what is called a high index of suspicion, then you should actually do a test. And you examine. First of all, it's really a good physical examination that should be done. And if this is suggesting that we need to do further tests, then you do ultrasound if they are less than 40 and below. But if they are above 40, you ask for a mammogram. And this is where it starts. It will show you something that will make you suspect that this is cancer. Yes.
The age gap.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, mammogram and ultrasound because of 40 and 40. Could you just break that down for me?
Yes, the difference here is that the under 40s have dense breasts. The breasts tend to be heavy. So getting mammogram to really define them properly becomes difficult. Number one. Number two is mammogram has radiation. So if you expose young breasts again to radiation, then there is that risk of going on to develop cancer. So,
outside of breast cancer, there's all of these forms of cancer that can go undetected. Hence why we ask to checks done. So again, unlike a situation where with breast cancer, there's something that pops up that prompts you to go to hospital. We've seen so many reported cases of people going to hospital, feeling, maybe feverish or just unlikely symptoms. And then they're told they have a very aggressive form or advanced stage of cancer. Let's look at the prevention part of it, where maybe certain tests people need to be going to hospital to get done, to get screened for. What are those like? And also adding to that is the hesitation that we see amongst men to have screening done for prostate cancer because of how invasive the process is. How then do we encourage people to walk into facilities to just make sure that they're checked?
Breast cancer screening, cervical cancer screening are different from prostate cancer, because breast cancer and you treat them properly, they are cured. Cure in excess of 95-98%. So one should actually get them screened early. They're the same as cervical cancer. And if you don't, are not very aggressive. And the rank as what we call a Gleason 6. And if you screen and you diagnose them and you get a Gleason 6 and you subject them to treatment, some of these cancers, some other people think they are not even supposed to be called cancer because they behave differently and they are not likely to progress beyond the prostate gland to go elsewhere and cause death. Now, the treatments that you give for early cancer, particularly prostate cancer, have the side effects that you may end up with. You may get a cancer that does not need treatment, and this has to come out very clearly. And then health worker that is sitting with you should find out any relative develop prostate cancer that you can know. Those who have had a urinary symptom, those who have had obstructive urinary symptoms, need to be screened. Yes, the chances are that they may be having prostate cancer. But the prostate cancer is a very tricky one because Then if you are not going to treat to screen everybody like that, then people end up with metastatic disease. But breast, cervical, and others really need to be screened very actively for everybody at the right age so that you can catch them early. And again, there are also cancers that are not screenable, in that the numbers, the spending of resources, because resources are also there to be spent, and you may catch maybe 1 in a million. Then you are not going. But some of them are very serious trouble, and there are not so many. So screening them is not.
I've tried. I'm possible. Now, I know it's a very ignorant statement to make, but it's the reality of the situation for myself, and not just myself, a lot of men.
When you consider yourself at risk, or your health worker, who should actually work with you very closely to understand your disease process, the journey, and also understand your family history, they should say, okay, this guy needs us to check, and they have to give you a very good checkup. And the check we should not be that invasive, and a blood test, a simple blood test that is called PSA. PSA is still the screening blood test that is used globally. It's a reasonably simple test, and then you have the ultrasounds, and there are various site-specific ultrasounds that will get you to understand what is happening inside your prostate gland after they have done a very good digital rectal examination. But a digital rectal examination is not as easy as it sounds for you to get the right feel of it. So you combine it with imaging, and with the right imaging, one should be able to catch it early and treat it. And the good thing is that prostate cancer caught early is almost invariably cured. So you don't wait for it. But if it has gone beyond the prostate, you are not going to cure it. That's unfortunate.
Professor has really encouraged me and discouraged me at the same time.
Yeah.
He talks about the PSA, which now has encouraged me to go, and then says digital rectal evaluation is not as easy. And then I'm like, there we go. That's the reason I'm not going in there. But yeah, now that we know that it is important and it's something that we can check out, the problem with that is family history. I was almost tempted to call my dad and ask him, because most parents, you won't be able to, this African culture, to know your family history in terms of prostate. And I wanted to use my dad as an example, but you just gave me another option, so that's good. But the cost implication, that's something that is, it's mind-blowing. And we can talk about the numbers and the figures, but then the reality of what you need to use and how much you need to spend, and the entire experience can only be given by an actual cancer warrior. That's why we're glad we have Grace Mukoma in the house. How about you talk to us about the whole process of the examination, the money you needed to spend, going through, what do you call the treatment?
Yeah.
Just paint a picture of what you had to do, what it cost you, and how that changed or affected your life and the people around you, obviously.
Yeah. I started with blood tests first, because with the cancer, you must have a blood test, ultrasound, mammogram. Those are the tests that you should go first, so the doctor can come with a good result, and from there to start a good treatment for. So I had been going all of those, and I started with chemotherapy. Chemotherapy it was on 2024 where I started my treatment. For chemotherapy is very, very tough, and the cost is very high, because for 6 cycles I used almost 300,000, and then I went for la surgery. I used 134,000. Finally, I went for radiotherapy. I used 60,000. So for me, the journey have been very, very tough. Yeah.
And you know, it's when we break this down to numbers and you hear the cost of it, allow me to ask, is this treatment that was done at a private facility or government facility? And how much of that cost burden did you and your family have to carry?
Yeah. I started at public hospital. But for a while, it was the time that they had strikes, and then I decided to go at a private hospital.
Facility.
Yeah. And I thank Dr. Siwilis because she is the one who went through my treatment. Yeah. Because, I don't know, I started
A patient you because they do understand that your life is in their hands. So left with the decision to make at that point is, do we proceed with the treatment, or do we then just send you back home and you are left to your own? So the cost of this, again, borne by the facility and your family
Yeah.
having to go through this process with you.
Yeah.
Was there an aspect of fundraising?
No, only my family and some of my friends. Yeah. My family have a lot to do, because if it's not my family, maybe I could.
Families from the doctor's, professor's perspective, and of course from Grace's perspective. In the Premier League, where Brentford struggled against City, did very well considering they had just lost Christopher. Get this, died after a long battle with ball cancer. Today.
Capital Sports Update, where sports is taken seriously.
All right, so Kenya Federation Premier League season continues after sharing a 1-1 draw with Tusker FC. That was on Sunday evening at Moore International Sports Centre, Kasarani. How are you starting to turn up for the local league? Hope so. Chan better have to Kasarani. How are you starting to turn up for the local league? Hope so. Chan better have encouraged you, because 2027, you need to know all your players, my brother, my sister. You need to know time record holders are in passing him at the first corner at the start of the race, leading them passing him at the first corner at the start of the race, leading the Australian to claim it was not fair. It's not fair that the team didn't ask them to reverse positions while the crybabies were busy at work. George Russell to reverse positions while the crybabies were busy at work. George Russell took his second victory of the season with from Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who spent the closing laps holding off an attack of La Liga after being thrashed. A win over West Ham, it was a walk in the park for them. A win over West Ham, it was a walk in the park for them. A walk in the park for Manchester United. There's a statement you don't hear often, as they beat Sunderland 2-0. And in spite of all that hard work from Manchester United, you still have to scroll down to the bottom half of the table to see them. Meanwhile, it is the summit of the table for Arsenal on 16 points, and that is one ahead of Liverpool. Second of many to come. Second of many to come.
Capital Sports Update. Up to the minute sports, where sports is taken. And so is the music. You've found your morning show. Capital in the Morning with Chico and Falaris.
Caribbean Disco. Songs everybody knows. is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Coconut woman is calling out, and every day you can hear her shout. Get you coconut water. Man is good for your daughter. Cocoa got a lot of iron. Make you strong like a lion. Down the way where the nights are gay and the sunshine stay on the mountain top, I took a trip on a sailing ship, and when I reached Jamaica, I made a stop. But I'm sad to say I'm on my way, won't be back for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave my little girl in Kingston Town. Here are songs everybody knows. He said them, he said them, he said them, he said them, he said them. The Caribbean Disco Show. Judy drowned it. Judy drowned it. Judy drowned it. Judy drowned it. Why oh, Judy drowned it. Angelina, Angelina, please bring down your concertina and play a welcome.
9:04 in the morning with me, Felaris and Chico. Big conversation we are having here all through the month of October and November, which is hospital, and we also have a cancer survivor, that's Grace Mukoma. If you missed part of this interview, well, we are going to be uploading it on our YouTube and on our SoundCloud. Just catch it there. You can always engage with us on 0701 984 984. That's our WhatsApp number, and we're streaming live, by the way, across all our platforms. That's on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X.
Big shout out to my people at KBC. Kevin, one of the producers, actually following the story and saying, you know what, amazing and important in terms of support, but also by a doctor and a medical institution. Is this the reality in majority of the cancer cases that you've come across?
Well, cancer treatment is expensive. That one I must say. But cancer treatment, the cost can also be managed and controlled. Let me start by saying that where I sit at the Nairobi hospital, we also have lots of cancers that are treated free of charge by the hospital, by the doctors. The drugs are free, everything is free, and these are supported by
Kudos Nairobi Hospital.
a U.S. foundation. The drugs come free, so we give them free. The patients are seen free. We do clinics, and like Saturday yesterday.
The day before yesterday.
we had this clinic, and we have every other Saturday we have 150, 180 patients treated free, and they are getting their medications free. And these medicines, if they were buying, they're in the region of 200,000 per month, 300,000, 400,000. But since the medicines are given free, we are also treating them free. Now, that's number one. Number two is cancer treatment generally is not cheap. She talked about chemotherapy, and let me concentrate on breast cancer alone to start off with, because this is what she had. The chemotherapy of breast cancer, and in most of it is mandatory that you start with chemotherapy first, and then you go for surgery, not all, but most. And then you go for surgery, you do radiation, and then you do other treatments, depending on the biology, which now I cannot discuss. Now, that chemotherapy in a private institution will cost you in the range of 30,000, 40,000 per session, and and depending again on the biology, it can go up to chemo with immunotherapy and the rest, maybe 400,000 per session. So it also depends on the biology. So if it is biology which is not complicated, you can get away with 30, 40, 50,000, even in the private hospitals per session. but then the cost will increase exponentially if the biology is complicated and you need to add other drugs. And then radiotherapy comes in, surgery comes in. She has talked about, again, I can talk about in the private, it will be in the region of 300,000, 400,000. And then radiotherapy, again in the range of 200,000, not fixed. But this is the kind of cost we are talking about. Now, just to say that breast cancer costs are even not some of the worst. When you now come in with complicated biology and we are doing things like immunotherapy, the costs can hit 400, 500, 600,000 Kenya shillings per session. So it is not cheap. So the difference is huge from 30, 40,000 to that. Now, of course, the health worker that is managing you has to also look at way of containing the cost.
Yeah.
Because if you there's what is called guidelines. And if you are going to take the guidelines that the Americans are using, and that's what you must use on everybody, you are going to, the payer is going to cry. I mean, so you have to also tailor this to the local situation.
Yeah.
And we say in Kenya, we are in what is called a resource limited or a resource poor country.
Yeah.
So we cannot just pump in the cost as we have read in the latest American journal that this is what we want to use. So you tailor it. But of course, there are people who will come who have a lot of ability financially, and they will want, I want the best. If you want the best is there. And you will pump in the money and pump in 600,000, 700, 800,000. But somebody who cannot afford, you can also treat effectively at a much lower cost.
It's interesting we're talking about that because my heart goes out once again. Love the man, always will love the man, Chris Kirubi, our former owner. And we saw that battle in real time. We're seeing that battle with Grace in real time. It's just starting to wonder with so many people going outside the country. You talk about the U.S. Journal seeking cancer treatment out there with the advancement in terms of technology and the new, I'm assuming, what's the word I would use? The new
Advancements?
treatment or therapies that are coming through. Do we have any that are being introduced in Kenya, specifically at the hospital, that is willing to treat people for free, like new technological advancements at Nairobi Hospital potentially?
If
Cancer have come again in my bones. Yeah. Just like that.
You know, we'll continue preaching the gospel of, one, getting tested, and also speaking to your journey of, battling the disease. And now you've spoken to something else, which is, living in the present reality of another form of cancer. How would you say, for example, I'm trying to find the question, and maybe I need to direct it to Daktari and not so much Grace, in terms of policy and active campaigns that need to be formulated to speak to the reality that is cancer right now in Kenya. Campaigns cannot be done on 1 month of the year, which is when we bring the awareness to the forefront. What are some of those things you'd love to see, Daktari, that can then speak to survivors like Grace?
Well, campaigns should be continuous. Screening should be a process that is continuous, not sporadic. But it needs an organizational structure. And the structuring must come from the central, from the center. And the body that really should be spearheading this is none other than Afya House. But I think that the thing that limits this is the costs involved, because they cost money, and I think again we have this devolved health system, but of course that doesn't stop Afya House from overseeing cancer awareness campaigns and screening across the country. My feeling is that of course you have to get the funding for it to run, because otherwise you will start it and it will not go very far.
Correct.
That is where the problem is, money.
It is always going to come down to money.
Yeah.
Grace, my heart goes out to you. From fighting breast cancer and now cancer in the bones, you are not only a warrior, you're surviving this, and you're a beacon of hope. And I think sometimes words are not adequate, but my prayers go out to you. Yes. If there's one thing that I know you can do is inspire. Well, your final message, just whatever's on your mind.
My final message is to all those who are fighting cancer, whichever cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer, and sometimes we are looking for supporters to support us to go for this journey, because it is very overwhelming. Yeah, we can't.
What kind of support?
To support us when we are going through this journey of cancer. Yeah, to support us financially so we can go through.
The story of Grace Mukoma is a sad one. It's a heartbreaking one, but it's also one of resilience and what human beings are capable of. From breast cancer to cancer of the bone, she has been and continues to be a warrior, and now she's asking that we join in that fight, supporting her. If there's any way that you can support, reach out to Capital in the Morning, reach out to Capital FM, and we will be very quick to give you information on how you can support not just Grace, but Grace and so many other cancer warriors. Grace Mukoma, cancer warrior, cancer of breast cancer, and now cancer of the bone, joined by Nairobi Hospital cancer expert, Professor Nicholas Abinya. Thank you to the both of you, and continue in the good fight, Professor.
Thank you. Bye.
Grace, nothing but love from us,
Thanks.
and prayer, and hopefully support.